Thank you very much. Welcome all this afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel, as well as the secretary of the board and the assessor this afternoon. Via Zoom, we have Diane Knight and Clay Purvis. And from the assessment department, we have Stephen Lobenstein. And the administrative personnel this afternoon is Phoebe Graywood. I'll be sitting as chair this afternoon. My name is Mike Colatruglio. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the business assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. Statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if matter pertains to assessed value, or to the Court of King's Bench if matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 2 through 4 on the docket today. Ms. Graywood, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Lobenstein, please state your full name.
Stephen Lobenstein.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Horsburgh, please state your full name.
Person Horsburgh.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lobenstein, we have 3 items on the docket today. First one is 100 Hanger Line Road. And let me have your presentation on this, sir.
Okay. We're dealing with the Rollier 2025 100 Hanger Line Road. The business ID is 3667. We have a total annual rental value of $181,680, a total area of 12,000 square feet. And we have an overall average ARV per square foot of $15.14. So that would include our base ARV and all occupancy costs to get to that $15.14. Looking down onto my first line item there for subject bid 3667. You can see the address 100 Hanger Line Road. We've put in the premise area of 12,000 square feet. This gives us a base rent of $152,520. And that is applying our $12.71. That is a net rent from our model. That is a model rent. Then we look at the occupancy costs for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning. We're applying the full area for heat, electricity, and water, as the building is fully heated, has electricity and water. For air conditioning, we're only applying 3,000 square feet, mostly probably for the office area. So we get total occupancy costs of $29,160 for an annual rental value of $181,680. We do have a subject lease information I have here. This was sent in with the income and expense mailer. It shows that it's lease started May 1st, 2020. It shows that it's a month-to-month lease. The reported area is 12,000 square feet, similar to what we have, and they're using $11. Further down, you can see my rent comparables. We have some on Lawson, Commerce, Nature Parkway, Omens Creek, Waverly, and Saskatchewan. And you can see that in the reported areas, they're similar to the subject property, ranging from 9,000 all the way up to 14,000 square feet. And then you can see the lease ranges from $11.18 up to $14.85. So they bracket our model rent of $12.71 a square foot. Moving down to my page 2, you can see a map of the location. This is in the airport. This is actually, they have access to the tarmac from this position where they're located. And you get a better view from my page 3. You can see the hangar. You can see the doors that open, and those doors access the tarmac. Of course, you can see some planes as well. So that being said, we feel the value of $181,680 is fair and equitable and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Horsborough, would you like to ask questions at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. Mr. Lovenstein, I just wanted to confirm the like under subject bid 3667, that table, base ARV per square foot, $12.71. So is that the model derived base rent for the property?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then beneath that in the next table, we have the bid 337, premise ID 4700, premise address 100 Hangar Line, monthly rent starting May 1st, 2022. And that rent that they're paying is $11 per square foot. Is that correct?
Correct.
So then I guess my question is, how does the city justify a rent of $12.71 per square foot when the property is in fact leased at a rate of $11 per square foot?
Sure. So as we mentioned, it's model derived. So we look at many different properties that are similar size, age, potentially location. So this is a model derived. We don't take just particular rents from one property and apply them. In this situation, they are getting an $11 rent, but it's a monthly rent. It's not, there's no term to this rent. So there wouldn't be a lot of weight to put on a rent like this. And then as you can see, I've supplied market rents lower down that are somewhat similar to the subject property. I will note that this is a hangar. My comparables are not hangars. The Saskatchewan property I have is the closest location to the subject at $12.18. So, finding rents for these types of properties is not simple, but our model will still generate a model rent.
Okay, and then I guess a follow-up question. I guess in looking for rent comparables, why wasn't the actual property, which is a hangar, and you have a rent for it, why wasn't that property included as a rent comparable?
Because it's a month-to-month rent. There's no lease term on it, so we're looking for lease terms ranging between 2 to 10 years, something that would be in the market. So we don't really put a lot of weight on month-to-month rents.
Okay, can you explain that a little bit more? Why doesn't the city put any weight on a monthly rent?
Because a monthly rent, they're basically the property, the tenant could leave at any time. They're constantly renewing their rent. There's no basically, there's not a strong lease covenant with it. So we wouldn't be putting any weight on it.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, any questions at this point?
That lease from May 1st, 2022, 11 months would have been finished in April 2023.
Mhm.
This is a hearing for 2025 based on the 2023 rate, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know what the new lease is because that's not in this time frame, right?
That would be for the next income and expense mailer. That
Yeah,
was, and
okay.
we will be using it for this model.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
And Mr. Privet, any questions?
Well, to confirm, it's on the airport from looking at your map. It is an airport hangar, though. The space is used for parking and storing airplanes. Like, it's not,
For maintenance of airplanes, yeah.
yeah, like but it's not a warehouse that's on the property. It's
No, I mean, that's what we're using for comparables. We use sort of storage warehouses because they have large overhead doors. They have higher wall heights, similar to what these property needs, these needs. So those would be the best comparables because there's very few hangars that get rented out. They're mostly owner occupied.
okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. And I think my questions have now been asked and answered. So Mr. Horsburgh, would you like to go through your presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I should also make the board aware that I've submitted rebuttal for this property as well.
All right, thank you. We will get to it directly.
Thank you. Yeah, so as we were just discussing, the property we're discussing, 100 hangar line, it is an airport hangar or an airplane hangar. So if the board will follow me, just starting on page 1, we'll move to page 4 of the disclosure. This is just the assessment breakdown provided by the Assessment and Taxation Department. And then if we move to page 5, we have M&P's valuation of the property. So in this case, we're not disputing any of the occupancy costs. However, we are disputing the base rent that's been applied to the property. In analyzing similar properties, M&P's determined a reasonable market rate for the property would amount to $10.50 per square foot. And I'll speak to that on page 9. But first, pages 6, 7, and 8 just include aerial photographs of the property, showing that it is an airport, or I guess airplane hangar. So now moving on to page 9, the assessment department and ourselves at M&P, we do find ourselves in the same situation where the vast majority of airplane hangars are owner occupied, and you don't really have any leasing information, I guess, save for this property. My understanding is that it's now owner occupied, but prior to them acquiring the property, it had been leased at $11 per square foot. As far as I'm aware, that's the only example of an airline hangar lease that I could find. So in order to determine, okay, what kind of a rent would this property generate, I've looked at warehouses, particularly large ones with high ceiling height. And from that, you can see on the table on page 9, we've looked at quite a few different properties, and we've determined the average came out to $10.25 a square foot, median rental rate, $10.75 per square foot. So $10.50 per square foot, pretty reasonable for the property. Pages 10 through 13, I've just included photographs of some of these comparable properties, the lease rates. So let's let the board have a look. Page 10 has 130 Lowson, 1305 King Edward. These are all storage warehouses. So the best comparable that you have for a property like this, where there's very limited leasing information available. And with that, I would just bring the board's attention back to page 14. Again, this is just the breakdown of the assessed rent and what M&P is requesting. So with that, I would request that the board revise the business assessment, revise the annual rental value from $181,680 down to $155,160 again, based on what a reasonable rent would be for this property. And with that, I'd welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lovenstein, any questions at this point, sir?
The only question I have is that you agree that when it comes to properties and hangars, there's basically few to no comparables out there.
Yes, I would agree. I wasn't able to find really any leases for hangars. I think, yeah, they tend to be owner occupied.
Oh, you just did in your you looked at some rent comparables, and as you stated, you just looked at storage warehouse ones as similar as you can get to airport hangars.
As similar as you can get, yeah.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pervez, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Knight, questions?
On your comparables on page 9, where's Winfield Way?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's in the Omen area. It's north
It's
of
in the which area?
Omen Creek. It's just north of the airport.
Okay, and then Scurfield, that's right there, King Edward Laws. Okay, so these ones at 31 or 33,000, 42,000, 31,000, would they be less dollars per square foot because of the size, or more dollars per square foot because of the size?
So in general, the larger the space, you start to get economies of scale. And as you get a larger space, there are really two sides. So generally, you would think, for the most part, that rental rate will decrease as the size gets larger. And for the most part, that's true. But the flip side of that is the larger the building, the more difficult it is to find a tenant. Because, you know, there's a different market for a larger building, and there are fewer I guess, potential tenants for a larger building. So
Right.
while generally it's true, as the building gets larger, the rental rate would decrease on a per square foot basis. That's not a rule, but in general, that's true.
And what's the wall height of the current building?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it would be in excess of 30 feet.
Okay. So if we were to take out the 33, the 42, and the 31 out of your comparables, what would the average rent be then?
Sorry, which ones?
The 33,000, the 42, and the 31,000.
If we were to remove those, and I don't have the Excel sheet handy.
Yeah, okay, I thought you might have had it there.
If we were to remove them, we'd still be probably around $11 a square foot. I would say probably between 10.50 to 11 per square foot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I guess, and I appreciate the problem that you're having, sir, in that you are in the assessor's saying without being able to find any paid rents on the airport side. That makes it very difficult for both parties to come up with a valuation. But notwithstanding, would you think that being on the airport, being with much more limited area to find space upon that airport, that there would be a bit of a premium that would go with that, sir?
I wouldn't agree with that, just because for this one property in particular, they were paying rent of $11 per square foot, and that does fall in line with what I found in the market for your best comparables.
Right, but there was a bit of discussion about that rent being a month-to-month rent, which would pretty much put that in question, in that it wouldn't be a very strong covenant and therefore might not represent market value. Would you agree with me on that?
No, I mean, if they were able to achieve more than $11 a square foot, if it was worth more than $11 a square foot, then they would be achieving a rent that is more than $11 per square foot.
But wouldn't that be kind of a temporary scenario until something changed? And I believe, now, forgive me, I don't want to interject anything that I shouldn't, but the tenants here ended up purchasing the building after the reference date, correct?
That's my understanding. I don't recall for a fact, but I believe that was the case. Yes.
Almost a try before you buy kind of a thing.
I haven't really spoken to the owner as to what went into all that, but Yeah, if the property was worth more than $11 per square foot, a willing lessor and a willing lessee, they would have agreed to a rate that's higher than $11 per square foot. I don't agree with the assessor's argument that that lease shouldn't be given any weight. If he thought it was totally useless and irrelevant, then why even include it in the disclosure?
Well, I think that he is obligated to bring that forward because that is the information that was provided. So they have to, just like you are bound to give us the information that is available. And whether it's perfect or not, I don't think that's the issue. I think at the end of the day, a value on a month-to-month basis or rent on a month-to-month basis is not going to be there's a lot more suspicion to that number in my opinion.
Well, I agree, but I think also that suspicion could go either way. It could be worth less than 11 a square foot too.
Well, it does go to the scarcity of the space that's on the airport tarmac. Whatever they call that, tarmac. I'll get it right eventually. There isn't a lot of space available for hangars out there, so I mean, there's a certain scarcity that goes with that, right?
Right. Yeah. And if it's, if the scarcity certainly is part of it, I think the fact that that's the only lease that we have, um, I'll leave it to the board to put as much weight on that as they want.
Yeah, well, I understand that. And again, I appreciate the fact that you're pretty much in the same boat as the assessor. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. The other thing I was just going to note, with exception of, I mean, if you were looking at your comparable list on page 9, if you are looking at the more recent rents, there are 3 of them: 130 Lowson Crescent, 1460 Clarence, and 91 Lowson Crescent. Those are all $11 a square foot, ranging up to $11.50 a foot. The other properties that you've listed are all 2018, 2019 rents, so they're a little bit dated and may not have as much weight as to the other 3. And again, you spoke to Ms. Knight's question with respect to the areas of some of those tenancies. And so those are also problematic to a point too. So yeah, I'm just seeing a higher rent per square foot based on the 3 more current leases that you have shown, sir.
Well, Mr. Colatruglia, I don't want to speak out of turn, but the assessors backed up his value based on leases from 2014, 2016, 2019, and another 2014. So I feel that my leases are far more relevant than the assessor, who's relying on 2 10-year-old leases and then leases from 2016 and 2019. The assessor has 1 lease from 2022. That's for an office building, and 91 Lowson Crescent, again, 2020.
Fair enough. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any summation? Oh, sorry. You have some rebuttal, sir.
That's correct. Thank you. May I speak to that?
Yeah.
We have it.
It's here now? Good, thank you.
Where's the rebuttal?
It should be the 3rd, I think it's the 3rd in the SharePoint link there, if you refresh it.
Introduction is the 3rd one?
Sorry, under item 2, so you'll have the assessor brief, applicant brief, and then the applicant rebuttal.
Okay, got it.
I have it also. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'll begin with the rebuttal starting on page 4. So I'm not rebutting all of the assessor's rent comparables, but there are a couple that I do want to point out. So again, on page 4, starting with 146 Commerce Drive, this is a suburban office property. So I don't think this property is at all indicative of what an airport hangar would lease for. On page 5, I've included the website of the tenant. It's an insurance risk management and consulting services firm. Again, I don't think this lease is at all relevant to determining a market value for the subject property. Moving on to page 6, 148 Nature Park Way. This is another suburban office property. It's the former headquarters of S&C Lavalin, which has since rebranded to Aikens Realis. I won't speak to why they rebranded. There'll be some other hearings about that, and it won't be in front of the Board of Revision. So thank you for allowing me to interject a little bit of humor there. Moving on to page 7, 169 Omens Creek Boulevard. Now this is a mixed-use warehouse with a large office space. Again, I don't really feel it's indicative of what an airport hangar would lease for. Moving on to page 8, 1164 Waverly. This is an ad from Colliers. Again, it's another suburban office space, not indicative of what an airport hangar would lease for. And then finally on page 9, 2800 Saskatchewan, it's a lumber yard. So again, I don't feel like it's at all indicative of market rents for airline hangars. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Lovenstein?
Yeah, just a few. So sorry, you're saying it's suburban, but you are aware these are flex properties, as in there's office in the front and warehouse in the back?
I've been to 146 Commerce. I've been inside 148 Nature Park. 148 Nature Park, I remember, and it's an engineering office. I don't recall seeing any warehousing space. It's an office.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree the fit ups might be the office, but these do have higher wall heights. You would agree they do have overhead doors in the rear. That's the whole idea of the flex of these properties. They have the ability to be both.
Sure. They could be both. No one seems to be using them for that in that area. But in theory, sure, it could be used as a warehouse.
Yeah, those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, any questions?
So just to compare to your properties are all warehouses
They're all warehouses, yeah. I've
with no office space in them?
The office space would be usually less than 10% of the space. You have often kind of a reception area, break room, bathrooms, but the vast majority of the property is used for a warehouse, logistics companies, storage, that sort of thing.
So under your leasable square footage, is that just for the warehouse or that's the total property?
Sorry, are we referring to my brief?
Yes.
So yeah, on my brief, on page 9 of my brief, this is the gross square footage of the property, which would include any internal office space, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Mr. Pervez?
Don't think so. I believe Ms. Knight asked what I was curious about. But yeah, just again to confirm that your comps are all warehouse space being used as warehouse space.
That's correct.
And so to clarify, I guess some of Mr. Lobenstein's questions, some of this city spaces at Nature Park Way and Commerce Drive, those two properties, they could be built out as a warehouse space but they're currently, you're stating that you've been in them, they're currently built out in their entirety as office space?
As I remember them, it was for those two Nature Park, it was about 6 years ago that I was at those properties. And I guess to give some context, the reason why I was at those properties is I think during my last year of university, I was a commercial water meter reader for the City of Winnipeg Water and Waste Department. And so every 3 months we would go to the same properties, the S&C Lavalin, 148 Nature Park Way. I remember in bizarre detail, because of how difficult it was to access the water meter, it was actually in someone's desk. So you would have to walk through the entire office and then wait for someone to come with a screwdriver and move out of their desk, and you would actually get into this water meter in someone's desk. And that one I remember was just full office space, a bunch of engineers.
Okay. That's my only question. And I assume this rebuttal, it looks like it's the same, you'll be using it for all three properties today, the same rebuttal?
We can probably skip my rebuttal for file 24507 because it's the same. My rebuttal for 24505 is slightly different, but I mean, I have no desire to belabor the point. The rebuttal is essentially the same, just with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't believe I have any further questions, so with that, I will invite either party for a final summation. Mr. Lovenstein
I have no summation.
and Mr. Horsborough, could you give us your summation if you like?
Sure. Just a brief summation. Again, we're dealing with an airline hangar. Ultimately, it's up to the board to decide what makes the most sense. Does it make sense to base your rental rate for the property on suburban offices, or does it make sense to base the rental rate on similar properties, warehouses? I think ultimately that's the question. And I hope that I've made my case clear here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, that concludes this particular property. We will now move on to item number 3, being 110 Hanger Line Road. And Mr. Lovenstein, can we have your presentation on this, sir?
Yep. Yeah, for the roll year 2025, the address is 110 Hanger Line Road. We have a business ID, business assessment ID of 27265. As you can see, we have a total annual rental value of $580,380. The total area of all the premises is 37,926 square feet, and we have an overall ARV per square foot of $15.30. We get that overall ARV by applying our base ARV per square foot of $12.92. We're then applying the occupancy costs for heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning. For this one, we're applying the full area for heat, electricity, and water, but only 4,496 square feet for air conditioning. The total occupancy costs are $90,365. You add that to the base ARV of $490,004, and we get our annual rental value of $580,380. Again, looking down to my rent comparables, you can see that they're similar in size to the subject property, ranging as low as 21,000 square feet up to 40,000 square feet. You can see the addresses, Kenniston, Commerce, Nature Park, Clarence, Haggart, and Meridian. We have the lease starts, and we have the lease terms. And you can see the range from $10.78 up to $16.50 a square foot. Again, our base ARV is model driven, so the $12.92 a square foot is model driven. On page 2, you can see the map again, similar location to the subject property before. I think my I have the wrong the little red mark I have in there. I have it on the wrong building. It should be on the one where it says fast air. Anyways, and then you can see on page 3, you can see my little red dot is on the correct building. So that would be the one that we're dealing with at the moment. We feel the value of $580,380 is fair. I should also note that there is a supplementary notice coming up for this property due for an addition. So that will be out. That hearing is at the end of April. But anyways, we feel the value of $580,380 is fair and equitable and should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Horsborough?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I don't want to belabor the point. I'll go through my questions anyway. With regard to the base ARV of $12.92 per square foot. I think you've already said it's a model generated rent. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then just with regard to the comparables, have you been to any of these properties?
Yeah, I've been to most of them probably numerous times throughout my career. Recently, no, I haven't been to any of them.
Okay. And you're aware of 1403 Keniston, that's a suburban office.
Yeah, I think this is what we spoke about before. Yeah, I mean, we call them flex warehouses.
Okay, well, I think the board understands. I'm not going to belabor the point. So thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, do you have questions at this time?
No, sir.
And Mr. Perez, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, and you had mentioned that there is going to be there's an addition put onto this building?
Yes, there is an addition put onto this building, so there is a supplementary notice that's coming out. So unfortunately, it's kind of bad timing. So whatever the decision, I mean, it could go either way. The decision today could affect the supplementary notice, or the supplementary notice can change the ARV when the decision happens. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say. Hands are sort of tied here. It's just bad timing.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Those are my questions. And Mr. Horsborough, can we have your presentation at this time, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've also submitted rebuttal for this property. I tend to think we can probably skip over the rebuttal, but I'll just start with my presentation.
Go ahead.
So beginning on page 1, well, actually, might as well move on to page 3. We'll start on page 3. Again, this is just the assessment breakdown provided by the city. And on page 4, I've included the assessment breakdown along with MNP's valuation. Again, for this property, we're not disputing any of the occupancy costs. It's just a matter of the base rent. For this property, there was no subject lease in place. So again, we've looked at what our best warehouse comparables are for property of this size. So if you'd like to look at the photos on pages 5, 6, and 7, again, we just have aerial photographs. And on page 8, we have the rent comparables again. Same ones that we used, that I looked at to come up with a market rent for the other hangar. They're side by side. This hangar is a bit larger. So I would place a little bit more weight on the 30,000 plus square feet properties for this one. Again, average 1025, median 1075, rental rate of 1050 falls right in line for this type of property. And then pages 9 through 12, same photographs you saw in the last presentation, just of the comparable warehouses. And then concluding on page 13, Mr. Chair, actually, you were kind enough to point this out. With my requested annual rent value, I was mistaken. The number has to be divisible by 12. So I would revise that request from 488,589 to 488,580, if my math is correct.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mental math on the spot. Okay, that's right. That concludes my presentation. Thank you. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lovenstein, any questions, sir?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Perez, any question?
Sorry, can I just get the revised number on the ARV again?
Yes, 488,580.
580, okay.
Needs to be divisible by 12.
Yeah, no, I just didn't write it down quick enough. So just
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
Any questions? No, you're good? Perfect. Ms. Knight, questions?
No, sir.
Thank you. And I don't believe I have any further questions, so thank you very much. Rebuttal will Can
We
we
can skip.
bring forward pretty much the argument from before, pretty much?
Yeah, I don't think I need to, go through all of it. I think,
Fair
can
enough. And any final summation, either party, gentlemen?
I have no summation.
Thank you.
I'm good as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the item number 4 being also 110 Hanger Line Road. Mr. Lovenstein, can we have your presentation on this, please, sir?
Can I ask for a quick recess? I want to call Mr. Harsborough and just talk to him about something for a second.
Okay, fair enough. We'll take a 10-minute recess then, and we will be back at 1:50.
Thank you very much. I was just going to give you a quick.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. We will move on to item number 4, which is 110 Hanger Line Road. Mr. Lovenstein, can we have your presentation on this and maybe some additional thoughts that have come as a result of the break, sir?
Yeah, so we have 110 Hanger Line Road. The business ID is 50209. So we do have an annual rental value of $165,420. Now, if you look towards where I have the annual rental value at the end of my second graph there, where it has occupancy costs, total occupancy costs, and annual rental value, I also have a second value of $565,440. So this is an error. This is an error that's going to have to get corrected. The actual premise area, I believe, is off too. It is not 34,689 square feet. So we have the original value that is appealed here of 165,420 is correct. So that would be the value that is correct, not the value of 565,440. So
the area is incorrect then, sir?
I believe the area is incorrect too. Yeah, this had to do with the supplementary that went out here.
Okay.
There were some issues with, I believe, linking these premises. This is just work that we do, but linking these premises to the actual roll numbers. I believe there's been some basically wires crossed, and the actual premise area, I think, is incorrect here.
All right, so would you like to give us the revised area then, sir?
You'll just have to give me a minute here.
Because it did seem rather odd that it's $4.77 a square foot.
Well, that is taking the annual rental value of 165,420 dividing it by the larger area. Yes.
Right. Kind of figured that.
Yeah. Just give me one moment here. It would have been 10,000 square feet originally.
10,000 even, sir?
Yep.
Thank you. And then the rate would be 1654.
Just give me a minute. No, the table rate was 1384. And then when you add in the occupancies, you get the 165,420.
Oh. What are the costs then?
Yeah, give me a moment.
Yep, please.
So the heating was 7,300. Electricity was 13,500. Water was 2,600. And the air conditioning was 3,600.
That totals?
That should total your 165,420.
All right. What is the total of those 4 numbers?
Well, I'll have to give me a second. I'll have to use my calculator.
Sorry.
It's okay, we'll get it right.
$27,000 even.
Okay. And overall, it's 100, so the value does not change at 165,420, correct?
That is the appealed value, and that is how it was calculated. So that is correct. The 565 440 is incorrect, and the total premise area is incorrect as well.
But it is $16.54 as the overall.
That would be the overall, yes. When
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can I just ask like a clarifying question?
Oh, of course, let's make sure, because this is all changing on the fly, so let's make sure we get it right.
Thank you. So just the air conditioning rate, is that for like all 10,000 square feet?
Oh, that's a fair question. Let me see here. I believe it is, yeah. So that would double check here.
So that needs to be revised.
Yeah, it is, yes. We have air conditioning for the whole 10,000.
Which is not correct.
I would suspect that wouldn't be correct due to the fact that it is a hangar. I doubt they would have air conditioning in.
Can you tell us how much the
They probably have.
provision should be then, sir?
I
Since we're revising things, let's get it right.
I don't have that number, unfortunately. I don't know the difference.
It should be about 10%.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the exact office space is in that. So
Can you not go to the premise to have a look at that, Mr. Lovenstein?
but that's the problem. I'm on the premise and we're using 10,000 square feet, right? So I don't know what their actual air conditioning is. Like if they have office space that's air conditioned, I don't know. I don't know the ratio. Like the break.
Also, it was never broken out differently?
No, that's what I'm saying. We're applying the full our occupancy cost for air conditioning. We're applying the full 10,000 square feet, which probably isn't correct when I look at this and how other airport hangars are, but valuation we have, and that's the value that was appealed.
And the notes don't help you.
Unfortunately, no. But it's not the notes help me or not. It's just that that's unfortunately what we put in. So it doesn't say otherwise in my notes. I would agree with Mr. Harsborough that they probably are not using 10,000 square feet of air conditioning, but I don't know what the actual space is.
Okay. Is there any chance that the previous year would have been different, sir?
Nope. Yeah, I've looked back. That's where I'm looking right now.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, Mr. Horsborough, do you know how much the office area is in this particular instance, sir?
So one of the items I was disputing for this property was, well, the rental rate, and then the second point of contention was, yes, the whole square footage being assessed with air conditioning. So I did email Fast Air, as the owner, and they only gave me an approximation. So I'm waiting to get the actual building plans to see, but the manager said it was less than 10%. And so if we look at the other two that are Fast Air, we've got, well, let's see, let's go to file 24547. So we've got air conditioning of 4,469, or sorry, 96 divided by 37,926. So that's 11.8%. And then 3,000 square feet out of 12,000, so 25%. Yeah, so I would tend to think it'd be between 10 and 25% would be air conditioned space.
Okay.
So like on my disclosure, I'm asking for it to be reduced to 10% of what it currently is. And that's just off the approximation that I've received.
Okay. So, Mr. Lovenstein, 10% sound good to you, sir?
I'm not going to say it sounds good or bad. I don't know the exact area, and that's usually what we try and do, but I'm not going to argue with what Mr. Horsborough said there.
All right, and if that were the case, what would be the cost to occupy, gentlemen? Because if we adjust the air conditioning downwards, that's going to change the total cost of occupancy that we add to the rental at whatever rate that we end up determining.
So let's see. So, and sorry, Stephen, so we're saying 10,000 square feet for the actual size for this one again?
Yes. So it'd be 1,000 square feet would be air conditioning at 36 cents.
Okay, so 3,600.
Well, it'd be 3,000. I mean, $360.
Oh yeah, sorry. Mental math.
Well, that revised cost would be what then, gentlemen?
Well, 1,000 square feet times 36 cents is $360.
I appreciate that, but the total costs.
Oh, hang on. I got 23,760.
That is 23,760.
Mm-hmm.
And we would add that to. What's the base rent on this then, sir?
138,400.
138,400 is the base?
Correct.
And how much is that per square foot?
$13.84.
Thank you. All right, clear as mud. So we are now at 100, we still are at 165,420 as the annual rental value, correct?
Correct.
So we've made adjustments to cost to occupy as well as the base rent.
Well, that's a decision you guys can make, and if you like.
Doesn't, sorry,
Well, I
Mike.
mean, that's your position, what it is.
That's not the position that was appealed. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm just saying I don't know what the actual air conditioning is.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So you're, sorry, so you're sticking with your 165,420
I have to without actual evidence.
period, okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can sort that out ourselves. Is there anything further you'd like to tell us about, Mr. Lawson?
I have nothing else to say on this. No.
Okay. This night, do you have any questions further?
So you came from 565 down to 165,420, correct?
Nope, that's not correct. Actually,
So-
we were always at 165,420. That's the value that was appealed. If you look at the appeal form, that is appealed.
Yeah. So it's a premise area that's different than
There
at
was
1360 square foot.
yeah.
Should just be 130 whatever.
Since the after the assessed value for business assessment went out, there was a change to this building. There was subsequent addition, not so much this building, but buildings along the line there.
Okay.
And basically some of that area got put into this into the other building, which was incorrect. So we're going to have to correct that. So the 565,440 actually never went out, but it is sitting there basically waiting to be sent out in a supplementary tax bill. We're not going to be sending that out now that we've caught this error. So 165,420 is the correct assessment.
So 1654 is your overall rate, 1384 is the is a dollars per square foot on this property. Then there's the heat, water, or whatever for 27,000 gets you 165,420.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, Ms. Knight?
No, I'm good now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Purvis, any questions?
Sorry, I just trying to follow around with the new math here.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Wouldn't the ARV of 165,420 come down with the reduction on the AC? I know the other numbers are wrong. If we're doing 10,000 square feet, I got to the 165 number by adding up the total of the occupancy costs being at 100% for each of them.
Yeah.
Then when we reduce the total occupancy costs to the 23,760 by going only 10% is air conditioned, then we get that 162, 160.
Yeah, but that's not the value that went out and the value that was appealed. All I'm saying is that I'm saying like the air conditioning, that could be correct. I don't know what the air conditioning is, so I have to stick to my valuation, 165,420. Where all I'm saying is I agree that most hangars don't fully air condition, and I would be surprised if this one does. So that's a correction. If that is true, we will have to make after an inspection or getting confirmation from the owner.
So you're sticking with the 3,600 on that, and the total for that is 27,000 plus the 138,400 to 165,420 for this appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with the.
I get you.
We'll let Mr. Horsberg make the argument for the other.
Yeah.
We don't need to do his work for him. He's got to earn his paycheck today.
Yeah.
I'm happy if you guys want to argue on behalf, by all means.
All right, so we are now coming, and I don't have any questions further because I follow along with what's happened. And I appreciate the fact that the assessor doesn't have the actual breakdown of whether it's all air conditioned or not. He surmises, but he is not certain, so therefore that's something we can potentially address, I suppose. So, Mr. Horsberg, would you give us your presentation at this point, and we will go from there, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess let's start on page 5 of my disclosure. So I was going off of the business assessment at over 500,000. So now I've revised my numbers, and now I'd like to provide the board with my revised numbers.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Kind of figured you would.
My client would be very upset with me if I was fighting to increase his assessment 5-fold. But I'll continue singing for my supper here. Okay, and I'm going to do the math live, so we all follow along here.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll start with the estimated base rent. So again, I think $10.50 per square foot makes sense for the property. So 10,000 square feet times $10.50. I'm punching it into my calculator. 105,000. Okay, now heat, 10,000 square feet times 73 cents a square foot. $7,300. Electricity, 10,000 square feet times $1.35 a square foot. $13,500. Water, 10,000 square feet times 26 cents a square foot. $2,600. And then air conditioning, again, I guess this is my turn to argue. Again, we're dealing with an airline hangar. If we want to look at page 8 of my disclosure, you can look at the size of the airline hangar door. There's no way that anyone would or could. I mean, I suppose you could, but with this door opening and closing several times a day, there's no way all that space is going to be air conditioned. You know, my client would be bankrupt by now if they tried to cool all that space with the door opening and closing all summer long. So then air conditioning, assuming roughly 10% has air conditioning, 1,000 square feet times 36 cents, $360. So now we can add this all up. Base rent, 105,000 plus heat, 7,300 plus electricity, 13,500 plus water, 2,600 plus AC, $360. We end up with $128,760, which is my revised annual rental value request.
And
So
is
again-
divisible by 12.
Sorry,
Yes.
And is divisible by 12.
is it divisible? Yes, and it's divisible by 12. That's just good luck.
Yeah, it is in this case. So it is divisible by 12. So that is your revision, 128,760.
128,760.
And that's what you're looking for as a value on this particular property.
Yes, the two main issues with this property, the air conditioning, and again, the rental rate.
An area, ultimately also.
Yeah, and an area.
Okay. That's your presentation, sir?
Yes, I think the rest we've gone through already. So
Okay.
that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Lobenstein, any questions, sir?
I have no questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, questions?
No, sir.
And Mr. Purvez, any question?
I am good, thank you.
And I think I've got twisted around enough that I think I actually understand what happened. So we're good at that. Any final summation, either party, gentlemen?
No, I have no summation. Just thank you for bearing with me with that explanation.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Horsborough?
No summation. I just want to thank Mr. Lobenstein as well for being direct and forthright and calling me and letting me know what was going on here. And yeah, thank you to the board for bearing with us as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, both. And I believe we have heard all the items scheduled. This hearing is now adjourned, and I thank you very much both for your presentations. Thank you.
Everyone, thanks, Carson.
Hey, thanks guys. Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Bye.